devastating hurricanes, unprecedented heat waves, catastrophic flooding. An upward trend of extreme weather and climate events is leading to significant losses across the globe. In the fight against climate change, no one is a bystander. China has pledged to peak the nation's CO2 emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. To shed light on the country's journey towards sustainable development, our reporters traveled across China to capture the stories of individuals, enterprises and public institutions who are striving to make a difference. As COP29, the UN Climate Change Conference, convenes from November the 11th to the 22nd in Azerbaijan, CGTN Radio brings you a special series, Greener China, A Journey to 2060. Join us on your favorite podcast platforms to witness Chinese people's awareness, actions and the challenges we face as the country journeys into a greener future.
Gaoli Gong Mountain is like my mom. Her milk is the water that I drink every day. It also nourishes the crops in the fields.
I believe biodiversity is our magic money tree. Nature offers a source of infinite wealth.
Biodiversity has helped sustain humanity till this day. If we harm nature, it's like tearing apart our home. That would only lead to our own extinction.
In May 2024, the southwestern Chinese province of Yunnan committed itself to playing what it calls an exemplary role in global biodiversity conservation in the years to come. The pledge coincides with the national target of restoring at least 30% of degraded ecosystems and expanding the size of nature reserves to cover 18% of China's landmass by 2030. At the same time, Beijing is also juggling its ambitious dual carbon goals. These goals demand the nation achieve peak carbon emissions by 2030 and full carbon neutrality no later than 2060. I'm on a mission to find out how China plans to keep these promises and investigate the intricate dynamics between biodiversity and carbon reduction. I'm now waiting for my 3-hour flight that will take me to Kunming, the provincial capital of Yunnan. You may be wondering why I've picked Yunnan and how important this Chinese border region is when it comes to biodiversity conservation. Accounting for just 4% of China's total land area, Yunnan has the most diverse biological and ecological system anywhere in the country. A little larger than Germany, it's home to over half of China's plant species. It also harbors more than 3,000 endemic species and about 60% of all endangered species inside China. The city of Kunming is a sprawling oasis with verdant rolling hills on the outskirts and Dianchu, a gigantic freshwater lake just south of the city center. I started my tour talking to the locals and tourists who flocked to the highland city to avoid the scorching heat elsewhere. While Yunnan and China as a whole are pressing for a better environment, I'm curious how much the general public knows about the relationship between humanity and nature.
If our planet continues to heat up, some animals and plants may die of drought. There could be mass extinction.
Biodiversity can help with reducing carbon. For example, algae can store lots of carbon dioxide. We should protect all kinds of plants.
Climate change is killing biodiversity, but China is working hard to protect endangered species.
We could use more public transport or bicycles for better environment.
Plant trees, I guess.
Set your air conditioner several degrees higher.
More recycling.
My conversations with these people of varying ages and backgrounds revealed a general acknowledgement of how human activity could exert an adverse impact on our planet. They also seem to have a grasp on what they personally can do to help mitigate the impacts. I wondered what frontline environmentalists might have to say about this. Could their more intimate knowledge of Mother Nature yield a different set of answers? The next leg of my journey brought me to Gaoligong Mountain, which straddles along the China-Myanmar border in western Yunnan. As one of the dozens of global biodiversity hotspots, this area, which meanders 600 kilometers north to south, encompasses over 5,000 kinds of seed plants and over 35% of bird species, plus all types of non-human primates found in China. Apart from around 400 kinds of flora and fauna native only to Gaoligong, new species have kept popping up from the nooks and crannies of its forested hills. Over the past 40-odd years, Gaoligong Mountain has yielded more than 600 new categories of plants and animals previously unknown to humanity. The mountain's forest coverage has also surged from 82% to about 94% in a few decades. But like elsewhere, even this arc of life has suffered its share of degradation, as economic profits were prioritized decades ago. Yin Xuejian, chief of the Gaoligong Mountain Management Bureau, recalled a time when nature was primarily treated as a source for raw materials.
In the past, people relied heavily on the resources in the mountain. They came here to collect firewood and graze their livestock. But after the mountain was designated as a nature reserve, we would no longer allow that. No doubt there were initially some hard feelings.
Hunter-gatherer turned forest ranger Mao Qinsheng is from the local Lisu ethnic community. Before the transition in his career choice, Mao mainly lived off the woods, just as ancestors had for thousands of years.
Hunting is a fundamental life skill for us Lisu people. It's passed down from generation to generation. In the 60s and 70s, a Lisu boy was bound to have trouble finding a wife if he didn't know how to hunt an animal. We also used to practice slash-and-burn farming. We'd cut down the trees and torch the whole place in a fire before sowing the seeds. Every year, we'd find a new spot in the woodland and repeat it all again.
Excessive poaching and agrarian activity led to a mass exodus of wildlife and land erosion. It dawned on Mao Qinsheng that he and his people could not afford carrying out living their lives the old way. Gaoligong Mountain officially became a national nature reserve in 1986. For Mao Qinsheng and his fellow Lisu tribesmen, they felt uneasy about uprooting their traditions. But the initial doubts dissipated over time as they began to see change materialize in front of their eyes.
I still remember vividly we are told that protecting the mountain equals protecting our mother river and other sources of drinking water. When I was little, mudslides and floods were common. But now, even if it rains, the water coming down from the mountain will still be clear. Gaoligong Mountain is like my mom. Her milk is the water that I drink every day. It also nourishes the crops in the fields.
Mao's sentiment was echoed by bed and breakfast host Ho Ti Guo on Baihualing Ridge, one of the few spots inside the reserve open to tourists. He made a name for himself as a self-appointed guardian of the local avian population. Ironically, the 55-year-old had been a feared enemy of the birds when he was young, as he killed them both for fun and food. It was not until the 1980s that Ho finally changed his mind after meeting a middle-aged couple. It turned out that the duo had come birdwatching in the nearby hills, not far from Ho's farmhouse. As they spoke, the two visitors mentioned briefly the aesthetic and potential economic value of these feathery friends that abounded in the mountain.
They encouraged me to protect these birds and promised to write about this place and let more people know about it.
It was the first time Ho Ti Guo had heard someone talking about birds like that. It made him think twice about his relationship with the familiar surroundings where he had spent all his life. Following this chance encounter, Ho decided to put away the slingshot that he had used to kill the birds. He also went out of his way convincing his friends to do the same. While there were only dozens of kinds of birds around Ho's neighborhood in his youth, there are now easily around 600 varieties any time of the year. With the growing number of birds also comes the influx of tourists from all around the world. Ho Tigor and his fellow villagers had been quick to pick up on this trend. They began hiring themselves out as bird guides, and the more entrepreneurial ones were setting up lodging facilities to accommodate the bird-loving crowds. Ho Tigor's newly renovated B&B houses over a dozen guest rooms, which are typically sold out during the high season. In fact, endless incoming calls kept interrupting our interview as clients made inquiries for their upcoming holiday plans. When I asked Ho what he made of the growing biodiversity in his community, he did not beat around the bush.
It's our magic money tree. Nature offers a source of infinite wealth. We live in the mountain and we live off the mountain. Clear waters and green mountains are as good as mountains of gold and silver. The place is living proof of it.
Back in Kunming, I arranged to meet Dr. Wu Fei, a zoologist with the Chinese Academy of Sciences. I'd been chewing over Mao Qingsheng and Ho Tigor's words about the meaning of biodiversity for them. I wondered what experts had to say. Wu Fei and his team have been studying the unique Gaoligong ecosystem for years. He told me that the various animals and plants play a delicate and irreplaceable role in balancing the well-being of any given natural environment. If even one species is taken out of the equation, there is a real chance of the entire natural order falling apart.
Biodiversity has helped sustain humanity up till now. After all, the myriad foodstuffs we eat all come from our mother nature. If we harm nature, it's like tearing apart our own home. That could only lead to extinction. Our existence owes everything to the environment. We are never greater than nature.
Professor Geng Yupeng at Yunnan University seconded Dr. Wu's comment. His Faculty of Biodiversity Science is a leading pioneer in this field in China. While highlighting the multiple roles flora and fauna play in safeguarding the ecosystem, Geng also stressed the interaction between biodiversity and cutting the carbon footprint. He told me the process of photosynthesis enables vegetation to capture and store massive quantities of carbon dioxide and thus reins in the speed at which our planet warms up. The professor explained that there also exists a lesser-known piece of the jigsaw that's equally important to nature.
As CO2 levels diminish in the atmosphere, the likelihood of extreme weather events around the globe reduces with it, which contributes to greater biodiversity in the natural environment. Plus, a livelier ecosystem is also thought to be much more resistant to irregular weather patterns. Hence, biodiversity and carbon reduction complement each other.
Geng admitted that the Chinese public is showing much more care about the environment now than at any point in recent history. But he cautioned that there still remains a long way before every member of society willingly chips in to make a real difference. It's on that note that the first leg of my trip came to an end. In the next episode, I'll examine some of the measures China has implemented to tackle biodiversity loss, and hopefully that will offer inspiration for individuals keen on making the world a better place.
I've also found the footprints and the feces of wildlife. There's no sign of illegal hunting.
We have now installed surveillance cameras to monitor the protection of the birds and wildlife.
We encourage the local residents on Gaoligong Mountain to relocate. This will tone down the impact of human activity on the nature reserve.
I'm Zihan. Until next time, goodbye.